Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today we will cover the theory of the CSC301 visual programming, the introduction. So at the end of this chapter, you must be able to describe steps for developing a visual basic application to identify compile error, runtime error, and logic error, to use textbox, button, checkbox, label, picture box, and radio button, to explain about controls and programming. Okay, that is the fourth one. So what is a program? A program is a set of instruction a computer follows in order to perform tasks. A programming language is a special language that is used to write computer program. So what is a programming language? It is a set of commands, instruction, and other syntax used to create a software program. So a software is a program, okay class? Languages that programmer use, you as a programmer, me as a programmer, used to write code are called high-level languages. So this code, your code that you write, can be compiled into a low-level language because the computer hardware can recognize this low-level language directly. So the steps for developing a VB application, these are the step 1 until 11. You must first clearly define what the application is to do. Okay, what is the objective of your application? Second, you must visualize the application running on the computer and design its user interface. And then determine the controls needed, define the values of each control, relevant properties. Okay, after you determine the control, define their properties, and determine the event handlers on other code needed for each of the control. Create a flowchart or pseudocode version of your code. Check your flowchart or pseudocode for errors, and then you start your Visual Studio. Okay, so 1 until 7 is done using a sketch. Okay, either you sketch on your paper or you sketch in your computer, doesn't matter, but you haven't opened or started the Visual Studio yet. Okay, at the 8th step, you start your Visual Studio. You create the forms and other controls identified in your step 3 here. And then you use the flowchart or pseudocode from step 6 to write the actual code. And then you run your application. You try run your application, okay, the button play, and then you correct any syntax error found. And then you must repeat until everything is correct. So once all the syntax errors are corrected, you run the program with the test data. Okay, test again with a real data, test data. Maybe there will be another error. Okay, maybe. So you must correct any runtime errors and you must repeat as necessary. So what are compile error, runtime error, and logic error? So these are the explanation on these 3 errors. So the comparison. Compile error are syntax error such as misspelled keywords or incorrect use of operators or punctuation. So it indicates something must be fixed before your code can be compiled. So it will stop because you cannot compile when you have this compile error. So this can be detected by the compiler. So when you try run, dia kata ada compile error. So you must betulkan baru you boleh continue. And then runtime error, when you test your data, everything is okay, and then you put into the test data. Okay, but still runtime error happens. So what is runtime error? It is a program error that occurs while the program is running. Okay, they are not syntax error. Okay, but result if there is an attempt to perform an operation that VB cannot execute. Your program need to stop. Okay, what it is executing, but it need to stop because no provision in the program was made to avoid the situation and do something else. So logic error, the third error is the logic error is the hardest to detect because it is a mistake that is done by you yourself, programmer. Okay, mistake that does not prevent an application from running. It can run, but causes the application to produce incorrect result. You want to calculate 2 times with 2 equal to 4, but it output the result of 40. So where is the error? Okay, so supposedly the error may be during you setting the object, or maybe during the calculation in your coding. So mathematical mistakes, the calculation, assigning a value to the wrong variable, assigning wrong value to a variable. Okay, these are example of logic error. So it is difficult. Okay, the hardest to find is logic error. So what happened when you encountered a compile error? So first you must know, when you compile and then there is an error, your error will be underlined with the jagged blue line. Okay, the blue the okay, where's my okay, the jagged blue line. Okay, let's say this is an error, jagged blue line. Okay, a description of the error will be displayed in the error list window. You can see in your computer. Okay, error list window ni ada dekat sini. Error list. Okay, in your VB. So you display it by clicking view on the menu bar. If it does not viewed or displayed, then go to the menu bar. You know the menu bar already. Go to view and then select error list. Okay, like you select the toolbox, like you select the properties window, solution explorer, you go to the view on the menu bar. Okay, so see this line? It is a color of blue actually. So this is the jagged line that indicates that there is a compile error. So what is the error? The syntax error. Okay, CLOST, supposedly CLOSE. Okay, and then runtime error or program error. You forget to initialize variable. Okay, in C++, you normally declare, okay, INTI equal to 0. Okay, here you declare a variable I, but you do not initialize that variable to any value. Okay, this can lead to program errors. So this principle is particularly true with string variables. So you declare a string variable, but you do not declare the initialized value of that variable. Performing an operation on an uninitialized string variable often results in a runtime error, causing the program to halt execution because the value nothing is invalid for many operations. So to prevent, how do you prevent this error? You always initialize. Okay, make sure you always initialize string variables, or make sure that they are assigned a value before being used in other operation. Okay. Runtime errors are harder to catch than the syntax error previously because they occur while the program is running. Okay, this is an example of an error display when trying to perform an invalid conversion from string to double. Okay, you cannot see conversion from string to type double is not valid. Okay, that's why you must always initialize your variables. Then the hardest to find is the logic error, but we have a breakpoint that is enabled. Where's my breakpoint? That is enabled in our Visual Studio, where you can use to detect the logic error. So a breakpoint is a line you select in your source code when the application is running and it reaches the breakpoint. Okay, breakpoint. Ada coding. Okay, the application pause and enter break mode. While the application is paused, you may examine the variable content and the value stored in certain control properties. Okay, this is your breakpoint. Okay, this is the code at line 14 where you put your breakpoint. So when you run the program and then it encountered this breakpoint, it paused, and then you can check what is the value of text runner.text. What is the value of the double runner? Okay, because we want to use the double runner. What is the value of double runner? Has it be initialized with anything or not? Okay, so that is why they kata you may examine. You may check variable contents. What are the values stored in that properties? And then subtopic of how to use textbox, button, checkbox, label, picturebox, radio button, explaining about controls and programming. Okay, we already use label in our lab before. We already use picturebox in our lab before, and also the button. Okay, so we continue. Controls and programming. As a VB programmer, you must design and create an application GUI, elements, form and other controls, and the programming statements that respond to and or perform actions, which is event handlers. Three main things that you will do while creating your VB application is you must create the control that appear in the application user interface. You must set the properties of the control. You must write the programming language statements that respond to event and perform other operations. So the naming rules and convention for your control. Make sure your control name must be a letter. Okay, a letter or an underscore character. Okay, only start with letter A, B, C until Z or underscore. And then after the first character, the remaining characters may be letters, digits or underscore. Let's say you start with X. So the second digit can be 1, can be A, can be underscore. Alright? And then it is important to remember that control name must be one word. So you cannot have, this one is correct, you cannot have XAFETY. This is incorrect. Okay? Because it must be one word. They cannot contain spaces. Cannot contain spaces. Punctuation mark and other special symbols are also prohibited in the control name. There are no symbols other than underscore. So the naming convention of the VB, we already seen some of this before in our lab. So the first three letters of the name should be a lowercase prefix that indicate your control types. Okay, you already seen for label we use LBL, for button we use BTN. And then we have another example here, textbox we use TX. There are so many more. So later you will memorize all this, because you will do this in every programming language that you could. So the first letter after the prefix, okay, LBL is known as a prefix. TXT prefix. What? BTN prefix. PIC prefix. RAD prefix. Okay. CHK prefix. They are prefix. So after the prefix, what you should do is put the first character as an uppercase letter. Let's say you have a button exit. So exit you spell with uppercase letter E. Then followed by the lowercase letter XIT. Understand? So if the name consists of multiple words, the first letter of each word should be capitalized. So therefore, it will be more readable. So you have a button latte selection. So LATTESELECTION. You see? So here you can see that this is the, where's my pen? Here. Uppercase letter L, and this is uppercase letter S. Okay, because we have more words for your controls. You want to name your control with more words. Okay, so the first three is prefix. So control name should describe the control purpose in the application. Okay, it must be very helpful for you to understand what is the control is about. Okay, if you name the control label 1, button 2, okay, picture 3, see, we cannot understand. It is not meaningful. So better you put it into a meaningful name. Any problem with this? So make sure this is what you do for all your coding. Okay, sampai ke tua lah. Selagi you practice coding, programming, you must apply these control naming rules and convention. This is a good programming practice. So list of commonly used VB control is a button, checkbox, combo box, form, group box, horizontal scroll bar, label, list box, picture box, radio button, text box, vertical scroll bar. Okay, what are they? Button is a rectangular button-shaped object that performs an action when it is clicked with the mouse. Checkbox is a box that is checked or unchecked when clicked with the mouse. Like you have a question, you were given a question, then you check the answer. That is checkbox. Combo box is the combination of a list box and a text box. Form is your window onto which you put any other controls. Okay. Group box is a rectangular border. It is a border that functions as a container. It groups together your other controls in a group box. Horizontal scroll bar that when moved with mouse, it increases or decreases the value. Label is used to display text. Okay, characteristic of label cannot be changed or entered by user. A box containing list box is a box that contains list of items. Picture box that display an image. Radio button is a round button that is either selected or deselected. Okay. Kalau checkbox, nama dia kan box. So dia dalam bentuk kotak. Okay. But if a radio button, it is round. Okay. Text box is a rectangular area where the user, okay, this is the difference between text box dengan label. Okay. In label, user cannot do anything or enter. But in text box, user can enter text or your program can display text. Even though your program display text, the user still can enter or change the text if you allow them to change. Okay, vertical scroll bar is a bar that when moved with the mouse, it increase or decrease a value. It is either vertical or horizontal, right? So this is an example of an application with calculator. So you see, can you identify the control? This is your form. This is your form. Okay, the title of your form. These are label. These are text box. Okay, this is also a label. These are button. Okay. So you see, label cannot be changed or entered by user. Text box can be changed or entered by user. So the prefix used for text box is txt. Used to gather input that user has typed on the keyboard. Text box control shows a blinking text cursor. This one. This is a text cursor. The cursor. Okay, when you run an application, the cursor will blink, indicating it is ready to receive keyboard input. Whatever the user type into the text box control is stored as a string in its text property. Automatically, everything inside the text box automatically stored as a string. Okay. So using the text property include. So how to put your whatever you entered in your text box, this is the name of your text box, okay, into a label where user cannot change that label. So use the assignment statement equal. So where did the computer, the program stores your data that is entered by the user inside the text property. So how to access the property? Just type the name of your control with dot text. So lbl info dot text equal to text input dot text. So mean you assign whatever inside this text box into this label. Okay. And then how to show? The following statement shows another example. It displays the content of the text input controls text property in a message box. So this is a message box. The property that you want to use is show. What will it show? It will show whatever inside the text input. Your text box name text input. So inside the text box. Okay. Another application. So what is this? Round mean radio button. Box mean checkbox. Okay, round radio button. So you see here, there are no text box. Okay, what will the application do? It will give this information to the user, display this information to the user. The user can select. Okay, pick a bagel. So they will select either white or whole wheat. One coffee with that. Either none or regular coffee or cappuccino or cafe or light. And then pick your toppings. Either this is not either. This is you. If you want cream cheese, please pick cream cheese, thick butter, blueberry jam, raspberry or peach jelly. Ni boleh klik mana-mana. And then automatically when the user push the calculate total button, it will display the subtotal that the user need to pay, the tax and the total amount. Okay, so how to reset all the values? Use the button reset form, and exit is to exit the application. Same with this one, this will exit the application also. When a checkbox is selected, a small check mark appears inside the box. Unlike radio button, checkboxes are not mutually exclusive. Okay. So when there are multiple checkboxes on a form or in a group box, any number of them can be selected at a given time. Okay, we can say that the checkbox are mutually independent, tak bersangkut paut. The prefix that we use for checkbox control names is CHK. Okay, I didn't see where's the. So, getting familiar with the Visual Studio. You modify the control text property with code. You create application using control objects. The application should respond to events, displaying user messages, and you debug your application. Okay, what you must include in your application is a form, label, text box, button, radio button, checkbox, and picture box. So, what are the examples that you can use? This is one of the examples. But there is no text box. There is no picture box. Okay. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that you need to include in your application. So submit this by next week in our maths lecture. Okay, class. Thank you and see you.